Okay, testing the audio. How does that sound? Okay. That sounds good. Pardon me. We're going to close that. Close that off. Let's get this going. See how this sounds. I really need a new chair. God, that squeaking is so loud. I'm using an old office chair that I really need to replace at some point. Something that's less squeaky. Either that or get some WD-40 and go to town. But anyway, howdy everyone. Happy May the 4th be with you. Which, now that I say that out loud, just sounds like a like I've got a lisp. And howdy everyone. I'm gonna lower that music down just a tad. Some of these Halo Reach soundtracks get so loud. And I love them. Believe me, I love them. But those high notes just get ridiculous, especially on the piano and the violin or cello or whatever it is that they're using sometimes. Let's try that. How does that sound? I love them. Believe me, I love them. Alright, how's that sound? Loving that feedback too. Okay. Okay, I think that sounds good. I think that's a good audio level. Get that going. I might keep it like this. I keep fiddling with it, trying to get, good settings, everything going. Really got to do some more testing out with this stuff beforehand, but I don't know how to do all that with OBS yet. As far as I know, I can't. So anyway, close that. So today we are working on the interior of the Pillar of Autumn, and I've done a decent bit of work off screen. What I've done with the cafeteria, because I've turned everything back on, I need to get rid of that one. I don't even have anything in there yet. Gosh darn phone. Okay. all settled. What I've done is I've taken the cafeteria or the mess hall rather, or galley. Now the galley is, so far as I know, is where they make the actual food, and the Pillar of Autumn seems like it has like food processors or something like that. Like it manufactures like MREs and shit like that instead of like a chef making you the food or something. And so, because it was asymmetrical on the inside where the door placements were, the original door placements had these on this side, on the port side of the mess hall, and the doors right here on the starboard side, and that's no bueno for making a symmetrical interior. I don't want the interior to be perfectly symmetrical. You know, obviously ships are not symmetrical. There's certain rooms on one side that don't exist on the other, and that's all well and good. Like the armory's gonna be on the starboard side and not on the port side, at least not that armory. I might keep this smaller secondary armory. And all that, but I want to try to make the hallway layout, excuse me, rather, as symmetrical as I can. One, because if I open up the Pillar of Autumn rift, everything is set to scale, except the hangers, which I have removed because, or not removed, sorry, scaled down so that they actually fit inside of the Pillar of Autumn's hanger bays, and I've got them pretty much lined up as best I can and spaced out pretty evenly. Doesn't leave a whole lot of room for like some of these jutting out sections. Oh, that's because the Pillar of Autumn, the original model, has these dumb, these things. And I guess technically the hangers are supposed to fit in there, but they don't, and it just looks weird. I got rid of those in the other model, but they're in this thing because this is just to keep scale of everything for the interior as best I can. And I'm gonna use this so that I can take the engine room, which is this this big whole section right here, and shove it all the way actually close to where the engines are. So I'll probably put it like right here, maybe. And then I'll just have to figure out how to get the player from A to B without having to walk the whole way. One of my initial thoughts was actually to have a Rev 8, which would be a Warthog or some other, Halo or UNSC vehicle, obviously, in some sections with the transport roads or currents or whatever you want to call them, like the big sections of the quick transport that the Warthog run. Excuse me. The Warthog run is modeled after. And obviously I will be reworking the Warthog run so that it too, like everything else, will fit inside the ship. And I'm going to be using Installation 00's video as a reference. I've posted images of that layout in my Discord, but if you want to see it and you're not in the Discord, you can just go to Installation 00's channel and see it from there. If you just look on YouTube, if you search Installation 00 Warthog Run Fixed or Pillar of Autumn, the big problem with Pillar of Autumn, something like that. I can't remember what the actual video is called. One second. Someone has picked perfect timing to try and ask me about models and things for VR chat, so hold on. The Texas Wolf is fine. The Red Wolf, I guess. Well, given that we don't really know what the extinct Texas gray wolf looks like, and I just want it to look like another gray wolf. Yeah, but it's an extinct subspecies of gray wolf, distinct from the Texas red wolf. And that's the Texas red wolf. Okay, we'll just use the red wolf then. Sorry about that. Someone's impatient. And ignoring my bombastic side-eye. Anyway, if you just look up that video, or if you see it in the Discord I've posted, it like reworks the entire roadway and puts a whole lot more levels and curves, and it actually even does a pretty decent job of get out of the kitchen! Get out of the kitchen! It doesn't do a good job of get out of the kitchen. That's my cat. My cat also does not do a good job of get out of the kitchen. Artemis? Yeah, sit on your rug, you little shitbird. Artemis is named after not the Greek goddess of archery, but the battle cruiser from the Sins of the Prophets game, or mod for Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion. It's one of my favorite ships, which itself is named after the Greek goddess of archery. The one on the left, baby, this is not the opportune time for you to do this. I understand that. You picked bad timing to do this. Huh? I don't know, after my stream? Well, look, man. No, this was a planned stream, jackass. The one on the left. Huh? Sure, a little bit of that darker fur, yeah. I can't hear you, and I'm...
Stop trying to lose your patience. Just read the questions and answer. It's simple.
It's not simple. I'm streaming, and I'm not taking too much time away from doing that right now. Anyway, it reworks that what most people assume is the useless bridge section in Halo Combat Evolved, which does not actually have a gap. It fits in about right here. This is where it would make the most sense. It's where it's kind of supposed to be. At least that's the lore explanation and answer. So, and then that little leap of faith bit would go right here, because it would make the most sense for it to be in the main cargo loader, the main docking bay for the Autumn. And then, oh, sorry, I've hit something I didn't mean to. And then would re-loop back around, which I know seems convoluted, but it would re-loop back around and oh god, what have I done? Spacebar C. There we go. That's what I want. And then it loops back around. Sorry about that. Over here to one of the hangars. It's supposed to be like, I think this one, technically, I guess this one's hangar 7, so it would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe? I don't know, honestly. It's also a bit confusing because in one of the posters, let me go into the cafeteria. Let me turn on textures. That's gotta load them. This is super fun. Probably should have disabled the Autumn before I did all this. Yeah, it's white because I didn't load it with textures. Or I didn't import it with textures, rather. You can see it in the bridge too, but in the cafeteria, I should probably do this so I can orient myself properly. There we go, that's much better speed. Yeah, see right here on this poster it says that there's a concert in the main hangar, and I don't know what that means. Do they mean hangar 1 Or is there another hangar that's designated the main hangar? Or is there some sort of other hangar than these 8? Or is it like a section that's in between all of these? I really don't know. I have no clue what that could be the answer to. Unless this whole thing is supposed to be a main hangar, and then these little sections here are supposed to go to the 8 hangar bays, and they're just like the tops and the bottoms, or just one section of them. I wish I could get a hold of someone from Bungie and just go through like a couple cliff notes. You know what I mean? Just, hey, where is this actually supposed to go? Is it supposed to go where I put it? Is it supposed to go some other place on the Autumn that was it ever fully thought through? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out. I would love to find out what is actually supposed to be happening here. I'm gonna take some of these ones that are over here and move them over here as well. You can see I've already removed the little flat bits here. I don't know what is up with these textures looking like this. It's a shading thing. I know it is because the texture looks like it disconnects, but it doesn't. It's the same texture. Like if I look at it at an angle, it looks fine, more or less. It's hard to get a good angle right now. It's also my lighting in here is kind of messed up. I don't do Blender scene work, so I have no idea how to get shading to look right. But like if you can see, if I move around a little bit, like it lines up and looks like it's supposed to on some of these bits. But for some reason there's just this weird shading divide in a lot of places actually. I'm hoping, God, I'm so yawning. I'm hoping that will be fixed when I export the textures, and then it's just a weird Blender shading issue, because Starfield does not do shading like that. Starfield's how shading works in Starfield is different. I don't know how it all works exactly, but I know that it doesn't do shading like how it works in Blender or how it works in some other games, because of how Starfield and Bethesda in general, but how Starfield handles textures and materials. Like, you can have lots of different textures on one item in Halo, for instance, and a lot of them are like layered on top of each other over and over. But in Starfield you cannot. You have one texture per material, and you can only have, so far as I know, one material per mesh, and meshes are kind of like either an entire object or a part of an object, and it's usually the latter. It's usually like a part of an object, you know, like the handle on a gun, and then the barrel, and then rails, and a trigger, and then, you know, so forth and so on. And so we just have to manage textures and materials and create them all like that so that it works in Starfield. Which unfortunately, especially with objects like this, leaves us in a precarious position of having an insane amount of vertices and a very high object count. I mean, section 1. I don't know, let's select all of section 1 real quick. Yeah, this is section 1. So this is everything from the first level of the Pillar of Autumn, plus some whatever alterations to that structure I've made. So clearly I've like added this long section between the hallways and the bridge, mainly so that that will fit inside of the Pillar of Autumn. Pretty much everything I'll do is so that it fits inside the Pillar of Autumn. And I may add some like secondary, like Jeffrey's tube sections, or replace these hallways with some slightly larger ones, or add some rooms here to the side to serve as like different functionaries. And maybe like add a captain's quarters here, probably somewhere. But other than that, this will pretty much remain the same. It's just going to be this long hallway, unfortunately, to get to the bridge. Like I said, so that it can all fit. And then I'll get rid of all the sections that are white. I'll be getting rid of those because those are from the exterior version model, and they don't take into account the interior. Because, as I've said 1,000 times, and as most Halo fans know, the outside and the inside very clearly don't fit together. But I will rectify that. We shall change what was into what is. Anyway. So right now, what we're gonna do is take a bit of time to fix some face orientation on the mess hall, because it's a little jank. The oranges, or the reds, whatever you want to call it, and the blues, so the way that they're set up in Blender, if you don't know, is the blue faces are the, like, outsides of the textures. They're the facing part, the part you're supposed to be looking at on the model. And it's technically like the outside of a block and the inside of a block, and you don't want to see the inside, you only want to see the outside. Well, having this setup is making it a little complicated, more so than usual, because you're not going to see this part, the outside of these rooms. You're only going to see the inside of these rooms because it's inside of a ship. So, I mean, really, most of it is fine. You know, like if I go through this hallway, you know, all of it's going to look okay for the most part. But because I've kind of kit bashed this cafeteria, I split it down the middle, right here. And then split it down the middle right here, and then took this whole side and reversed it over here. And so now all of the face orientation is super weird. So I have to come in here and fix it all by hand because I'm crazy. It's not hard to do, it just takes a lot of time. So what we'll do is we're going to select all that. And we're going to go into modeling. And we're just going to go over here and do it all by hand. So I'm not struggling the entire time. That's fine. Thank God for hotkeys. Because without them, I would be here, oh God, so much longer than it's already going to be. And it is already going to be quite a while until I finish all this. I'm probably not going to spend all stream just doing this. I'm probably going to do like just this floor and some other sections, a bulk of some of this work today. Just so I can showcase that. And then we'll move on to more layout editing. Voice audio is barely audible. Well, let me see if I can't bump that a little bit. I lowered it because it was catching my breathing. And if I either move the mic in front of my face or turn up the capture from my mic, you'll start to hear background noise, and my cat is currently sitting inside of a plastic bag in the middle of the kitchen. Lovely. Anywho, I'll turn that up a little bit more. See if that's better. Wish I could pin this. But I don't know how to pin this to where I can stay looking at my chat on my computer screen instead of on my phone. Anywho, I'm not even, it takes so much brain power away to look at that stuff and then think about it. Not this stuff or the audio stuff, just other things that are being sent to my Discord. How's that sound, Scrivener? Does that sound okay? Oh, buddy. The music audio good too? Let me know how that sounds, if it's too loud or too quiet, or I don't want the music to be overbearing so you can't hear me talking. I don't hear the music right now since it's all done through OBS. So for me, it is just silence. sad. Yeah, I can lower the music back down a little bit. I mean, it's already pretty low. There we go. Only reason I even have the music going, as I explained in a different video, is because, or a different stream rather, is because otherwise it'll just be silence 90% of the time. I have to remember to keep talking, because otherwise I'm just zeroed in doing this. Because usually when I do this, I'm either listening to something or watching something on YouTube, some long form video, just so I can pass the time. Lately I've been watching a lot of Blueprints videos because the game looks so interesting. The concept looks really cool, the puzzles are really intriguing, and everything just super engaging, and I just love those kinds of concepts. Just the notion of a roguelike puzzle, like house building game where you build your escape room around you, kind of, is so cool, and they implemented it really well. I mean, from what I can tell, I mean, it's a very long game, like incredibly long for what initially just looks like so simple of a story and concept, but I've watched this one guy, Pirate Software, on YouTube, and he streams for like 11 hours every day almost, and it's multiple of those 11-hour streams of that game, and it's still like as far as you get, and then you realize you only barely scratched the surface. And for some people that's like, that's no fun and it's boring, and hey, you know, not every game is for everyone, but I find that stuff super intriguing, very cool, so it's fun to put that on while I'm working. Either that or music. Music I can't play while I stream, because it's all copyright music. Whereas all this Halo music is fine to use. Let's see here. Artemis, what are you doing? Get out of the kitchen. Hey, out. Artemis, out. Cat. Sweetheart, can you come grab him and pull him out of where he doesn't belong? Oh, sure, when Mom calls. Oh, okay. You're not the fat man. I'll come for you, but not for him. You, whatever.
And now he's trying to ask you for attention.
Well, come here, baby. Come here. Yeah, no. Fuck you, Dad. Oh, man. Still trying to get 3D Max stuff set up so that I can use that. I'm only doing this for the Blender stuff now. Once I get the 3D Max stuff set up, I'm only going to be doing this to work on the models, and then when I get finished with that, I'll export them to 3D Max, and then from 3D Max it seems like it's a whole lot easier to work with stuff for Starfield, because it all seems like it's integrated. Like, there's a lot of Starfield tools apparently that come with the creation kit that are designed and integrated to work with 3D Max, because apparently that's what they used when making stuff for Starfield. Which makes sense, I guess. It's the industry standard and all that, but good lord, is it a nightmare to work with. The user interface for 3D Max is so unnecessarily complicated. But the upside is, the only upside I can see so far, is that it just makes that everything. Oh, see, this is what I was afraid of. Oh no, it's so much easier to do that and then go back and just correct it. So this is why you don't correct faces in big batches like this, because it'll fix some of them and then won't fix others, so you just do it in small batches at a time. And I can't just select everything and correct face batches, because that'll select all the blue stuff and then flip it, which I don't want. So, he's in the kitchen again, my love.
Artemis! You stop playing with the bag in the kitchen, bud.
Wow. Yeah, 3DS is... It just... The way it's all set up, Blender is so much more user-friendly than 3DS is. Everything in Blender, you know, can be a little bit clunky at times, but it's so... God, I don't know how to, like... Blender is kind of like the iPhone of... or like the Apple product, I guess, of 3D software, where it may not be as complex and intuitive as Android, which I'm an Android user primarily. I don't like iPhones. They're also unnecessarily, needlessly expensive for outdated mechanics on a fun user interface. But that's iPhone's biggest plus to me. Is the only real big plus is that it's a good user interface. I mean, it's not like Android's user interface is overly complicated, but when you want to do certain things, it can be. It's not like a Windows phone or a Google phone. Those are also absolute nightmares. But 3DS, 3D Max is just lots of features, but it's just an insane amount of, you know, reader's manual kind of a thing. Like, you gotta know how to do all this stuff to be able to do any of it, and with Blender it's significantly less so. Yeah, CAD stuff is... Oh god, no. Don't even get me started. CAD is an absolute shit show. At least the CAD that I've had to not really use so much. I used it in machining, because most of my machining work was manual machining. But I did use CNC a few times, and I didn't have to write anything or do any of the coding or set up any of the programs, thank God. But you do have to do inputs and run commands and check that everything is correct, like in the software before you run it, even if you aren't the one who designed it. And not obviously 9.9 times out of 10 we weren't the ones designing anything necessarily, we just ran everything to specs. But CAD is just, if you're looking at it and you've never like worked with it before or seen CAD before or anything like that, it's just gonna look like someone's trying to hack into a database or something. That's a pretty crude explanation. It's probably not even a very accurate one, but it definitely looked like that the first time I looked at it. Like, it just looked like jumbled nonsense to me. And that's kind of what 3DS is like. 3DS, kind of. It's like, it's a cross between some of that. ACAD lets you draw the command line. Yeah, the command line. So, I didn't have to draw anything in CAD. Like I said, we didn't really come up with any of the designs because we were a contracted company. I think at most all we ever did was like suggest and then make alterations to some designs if we were given permission to do that. If we saw like a problem and we're like, hey, you guys have it run like this, but that doesn't really work. You guys are trying to run it within these parameters, and you should really be running it within these parameters. Or hey, we can get this down to a, you know, a slightly smaller size by like 0.5 of a thousandth of an inch or something like that. You know, ridiculously small sizes, and we didn't really do too much of stuff like that. Most everything we did was in like large ass parts, which still had to be incredibly accurate. Some of them had to be like within I think the like most stringent tolerances we ever had were like 0.2 of a thousandth of an inch for like God, I gotta remember terms now because I haven't done this in forever. For like the best way to explain it is like how, like when you make a cylindrical part, like a large part, it's not going to be a perfect cylinder because when you're spinning and cutting metal, the heat displaces it and it will deform slightly. And so it kind of bulbs out a little bit on some of the parts of it. And also due to just the nature of working with large pieces of metal and trying to keep in tolerances, you won't get an exact perfect straight cut from one end of the piece to the other end, especially on some of the large, like anything longer than, I don't know, 3 or 5 feet, you're not going to get a straight cut on. Even anything under 3 to 5 feet, it's still, it's harder than it sounds. You're like, oh, just set it here and then it moves in the one direction, and you think, oh, it's a straight cut, but that's not how any of that works. One time I've had to edit CNC code is when there's an unusual process to depart, like a stage where you have to pick the part up and flip it over or something like that. Yeah, that's usually like, because in manual machining and in a decent amount of large CNC work, you do have to do that, especially for large pieces. Yeah. We really had one guy, because even if you don't like design the stuff in CAD, you still have to code it all in to use it in our machines, because even if it's the same software, the machine won't read it the same as every other machine, even though it should, but it doesn't. But you have to code it because it has to calibrate specifically to that machine and to specific parts on that specific machine. And the whole process takes a stupid amount of time. And then an even dumber amount of time to cut it and get it all correct. Some of those really large parts, and I'm talking like 20 to 30 feet long parts, we'd have on these giant lathes, and I mean, those things would take days, weeks. Probably not weeks. Probably like a week or two at most, I think, on some of them. To get those cut to tolerance. But I don't think any of those were CNC. I'm pretty sure those were all auto manuals. Or like engine lathes. I didn't do any of those. I worked on smaller stuff. My lathe was like, I don't know, 10 feet long, maybe. And the actual cutting aspect was like 6 feet, 5 feet, something like that. Yeah. Well, that water jet stuff's pretty on the money. I mean, you're just placing a part on a block usually. I didn't work with a water jet, but I saw how it worked effectively. And it's just for any of those of you who don't know, it's called a water jet, but it's just high pressure water that's shoving sand essentially. It's not really sand. I think it's like some other kind of like rock particulate or something that's got like a really high hardness, and it's like blasting it at metal to cut it at very high pressures and very high speeds. Yeah, it takes a long time actually, because it's got to do it pretty like even at those high pressures, you're still essentially shoving water and tiny rocks at metal, usually steels, which takes a while to cut it. But we ran a lot of small parts, and you usually only want to use that for like specific stuff. And yeah, it essentially just sits in a big old vat of water and swamp juices, essentially, whatever coolant and anything else. Because the water on its own wouldn't be sufficient for most things for cutting. Because the high pressure water would increase the heat. I mean, that's you're doing basic physics there at that point, but it's most of the reason why the water jet isn't effective is because, one, it's water, which is a decent enough deterrent and dispersal for heat, but it's sitting in a giant coolant vat, and it's got this big old whole giant cyclical filter system. So yeah, but everything else, when you're cutting metal, even with like a ungodly amount of coolant, like in CNC machines, it's stupid how much coolant they're just dumping onto a piece of metal while they're cutting it. But most everything, like anything that's metal that's shaped a specific way, is made by the machining process. You know, like any metal cups or pretty much all car parts. If they're made out of a material that can be cut in a high manufactorial or whatever the proper adjective, I suppose, is for that. A catting mill, yeah. A former for metal roofing. It was 60 feet long and had been running since the 40s. Oh, that's for a mill? That's crazy. The biggest machine I've ever worked with, and which was also the most dangerous, was an old, and I mean old, horizontal lathe from the 1940s, and it was used to make to bore out shells in World War II. And the place where I was working at before, when I was working there, working that machine, was like this tiny, like mom and pop shop type machine shop. The boss was a total dick. Oh, that guy. Anyway. And the worst part about it was we were using it to bore steel, and it had no... It had no emergency stop button. And because it was slow boring the steel tubes, we had to pull the steel string out as it was doing that. Otherwise, it would get caught up. And so we had these big, like, welder's gloves to do that. Already, you're at 3 giant no-nos. And if that guy ever gets found out by OSHA, I'm pretty sure they're just going to shut him down if he's even still alive. Here. A general rule of thumb in machining is you don't wear gloves. It's not an absolute rule. It's not like like an OSHA violating thing, I don't think. But general rule of thumb is you don't wear gloves in machining, especially manual machining, whilst you're handling an active machine or parts in an active machine, because a glove can get snagged on something because the metal's sharp, even when you're cutting it, especially when you're cutting it. Things snag on it, and it can pull you in. And let's just say I've heard and seen some pretty gruesome things. I've almost lost my thumb, my right thumb, because I wasn't even wearing gloves. I was what was I doing? I was sanding or deburring an edge or something like that. I don't remember what I was doing, but I slipped or it got snagged on the metal while it was actively running, and it pulled me in a little bit, or like I fell in forward towards the metal while it was cutting, and my thumb just slid along the edge of the metal between the one of the faces, like the flat part of the cylinder of metal, and where the curb and the face make the edge, so like the edge of the circle, kind of, and just slid along that, and just that motion, it wasn't even like super fast, it was very relatively slow paced, but that's how dangerous and sharp it is, and it just slid right through and shaved a giant chunk of my thumb off. And I went to the ER and they pretty much super glued it back on, and it never healed great, so it's fine now. Like, it doesn't look terrible. My thumb is like a tiny bit flatter, maybe, than my left thumb. but it's got this kind of big bump on it, like this weird kind of round bit where the largest chunk of it came, like got cut and disconnected. So that was fun. But it's definitely dangerous work. You gotta be... I'm gonna... Yeah. See, this is what I'm saying, why we don't do the face correction in large batches. Because even with stuff that's connected relatively, thinking, oh, well, you know, that should change the same face orientation when I correct it. No. Because why would it? Why would it ever just be that easy? Yeah, cross gemstone like rubies. Yeah, it's usually something like that, or like the shit diamonds. You know, like the really rough ones that are still great for industrial use. Actually, those are better for industrial use than like the sparkly, pretty diamonds they'll sell you at the jewelry stores. Because they've got like a slightly higher hardness level, I think. Or there was some benefit over why we used those and not like the nice polished bits of the diamond. But they're overall cheaper. Not by much, it's still diamonds. And even though we can make them now, for whatever reason they're still stupid expensive. Even though they're intrinsically worthless outside of industrial purposes. Like, it's pretty, sure, but like it doesn't do anything. Like, gold has so many more values beyond just looking nice and being a popular form of currency. Like, obviously it's a rare metal, and rarity dictates value in a market economy for the most part, but pardon me, outside of that, gold has a lot of electronical uses. It's a really great conductor, way better than copper. Lots of things are way better than copper. Copper's just cheap and abundant, and pretty easy to find. And gold is less so. Let's try that again. There we go. See, even all those things which are seemingly connected have different face orientation correction for some time, or some reason. As in two rollers that press two materials together. Oh, okay. Yeah, the last shop I worked at did have federal contracts. The one before that, with the dickhead boss, the little mom and pop shop one, didn't have federal contracts, but we had like local county contracts. I think we were making these giant lead solid cylinders for shock absorption in like bridges on highways. And, well, let's just say I hope they don't actually end up using any of his lead. It's been several years, so I don't know. But I don't want to go on any of those bridges. No, I don't. I'm fairly certain I've already corrected these faces, and then it just got undone. Yep. Well, probably fucked up something. I'm gonna finish fixing this little bit up right here, and then I'll move on to doing some hallway stuff. Just so we're not here all day watching me paint things from red to blue. Yeah, the spinning part, that was pretty much exclusively what I've done. Most of the machine shops I've worked in is pretty much that. Cutting things, shaping materials. Cat is losing it in the kitchen with the bag, dude. Sounds like a shitty game of Clue. It was Artemis in the kitchen with the bag by himself. He's crazy. Yeah, when I was in machining, like when I went to school for machining, which I regret, but when I went to school for it, our machine shop instructor showed us videos. Some of us were still like 16 was the youngest he had to be. It was like a federal program, and I was 18 at the time. But he just showed us like a huge collage of machine shop accidents and like really fucked up injuries. And this one guy who got like working on some long thin piece of material like metal or something, and he had a jacket on with long sleeves. Another big no-no in machining. Long sleeves, generally speaking. CNC guys can get away with it because a lot of the time they're not actually like working with that stuff. But if you run manual, no gloves 90% of the time, short sleeves 90% of the time, that means even when it's freezing inside that machine shop, because a lot of the big ones are in warehouses and there's dog shit AC, which means it's hot when it's summertime and it's cold when it's wintertime. What happened to the missing chunk of my thumb? Oh, no. See, like, it didn't fall off. It just cut it. And he super glued it back on, but it didn't heal right. And so we ended up cutting off, like, some of the section that just wasn't reattaching super good. And I threw that away. I don't know. It's a chunk of my thumb. I'm not going to hold on to it. Here's the chunk of my thumb in this little glass box from that one machining accident. It's a souvenir. Okay. I've been staring at this wall for a hot minute again. I'm getting sick of the color orange. Yeah. Oh, these, what am I gonna do with these? I don't even know. Is there anything on this side? There is not anything on this side. I wonder what that looks like. I don't want to fuck that up. So I'm gonna leave you alone. And we'll go ahead and do that. Do that. And that. Alright. Still looks terrible. Looks better than it did, but it still looks pretty bad. All that's gonna need to get fixed. See, it needs to look like this side. All blue. Nice and pretty. Yeah, copper kind of sucks, honestly. My ring is made of copper. At least my ring for now is made of copper, and it's really pretty. I like the aesthetic of copper. Copper looks really pretty. It's got some other good uses. I think you use copper and tin to make bronze, or brass, maybe? No, I think it's bronze. I don't remember. And bronze is really great for a lot of stuff. Uh, Bronze weapons are still pretty good. You know, steel is a tougher metal, but bronze is still pretty solid, and it's a much more like bendy metal. But that was kind of like a, it's like there's like pros and cons to it. Like some of the best ancient swords had a bit of a mix with steel and copper. You know, they'd overlay it, or they'd infuse it somehow, make one giant kind of amalgamation alloy. Some of the best steels we use now have bronze in them for different types of purposes. It's just a really good reinforcer. It helps steel with I think like high pressure things, or when the steel is under a lot of stress, so it's got a little bit of a give, because you want metal, especially steel. It's tough, but it needs to be able to have a little bit of a bend to it, a little bit of a give. The metal needs to be able to take on stresses, and if it's too tough and too rigid, it'll just snap, and you don't want that. You want materials generally that will be able to take on stresses and have give. There are some instances where you don't want that at all, but most of the time you do. You want your metals to be able to have some little bit of leeway. Let's see here. Let's go to, I want to say it's in section 2. One of these is hidden. Maybe it's in hallways. I don't remember. Might be in hallways. Yeah. Is it this one? No. That one? No. That one. Yeah, there we go. You can see all this is so messed up. This whole thing is inside out. And this part here doesn't even have a door to it. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that just great? It's because over here it connects to something and it's not really supposed to. I'm pretty sure I did that. Yeah. I'm going to do that. And you can see right there, it's just sticking out. And I don't want that. I don't want it to stick out, obviously. So, what we're probably going to do is, in order to fix that, I'm probably going to take one of... Ooh, actually the stairs might be a good option. I was going to say I might take one of these angled up floor bits. One of these bits right here, and throw it right here, and then raise this whole thing up, and that should bring it within tolerance. Run and hide in my office. Yeah, that's the big plus to CNC work, is computer numerical controlled machines, is you don't have to do anything with them. You write a program, set your tolerances, shove your part in there, press a button, and then all the CNC guys, and even some of the manual guys, depending on the parts they were working on, but all the CNC guys would bring books and like stools or something in the shop, because they would set their part and then just press the button and sit down, and they don't have to do anything until the run on that part is done, and then they can either flip it around or move on to the next part or whatever their sequence of work was. And if you were working a manual lathe where you have parts that are going to run for a really long time, like some of the parts that I would run, like a single run on that part, because you have to run some metals slower and cut them at a different rate and all that. I mean, I'd be there for an hour or longer, sometimes several hours, on one single run of a part, because I'm running it so slow and taking so little off each time, because otherwise it just messes the whole thing up. Because you don't want to fuck up a part, because that's money, and that's no bueno. So yeah, I might copy these stairs over and shove them in there and make another little, like, one of these hodgepodge connector things. I kind of like the idea of the stairs right here, but I also don't. I don't know. I might do that, honestly. Yeah. And figure out some way to make a connector for it. So what we're gonna do is select those parts. I'm gonna call this stairs 4-way, and then where is it? How do I? Okay, that's what it is. We'll call that 4x2, and then I can kind of go from here and make a 3 and a 4 level and all that. We'll see. Might not do all those. And then I might take the elevator section once I re-import that over here, and then add an elevator as well. Super high carbon steel. Shatter like glass when dropped on the floor. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything breaks. What is that cat doing? Hold on. Is he in there? I gotta make sure he's not getting into anything. Someone doesn't want to lock him in the bedroom. Are we going into VR tonight or something? Okay. Let's see. It is 10:18. So I've been streaming for about an hour, and I'm gonna duplicate this stairs section. Let me reselect all that stuff again. Gotta separate it out, which will be actually pretty easy. As long as I stay about right there, and then okay, we'll go about right here. Start with that, and then we can come in here and do a tighter selection, and then we'll come in here with this mess here in a minute. But this is how I've been segmenting everything so far and getting it all sorted like this, and these individual parts to turn into a good building kit. Okay, so might want to separate it here. I would want to do it here, but this doesn't split evenly down the middle, it looks like. Because some of that reaches over. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is separate it right there. Same as this part right here. That way we can have it all sectioned off. I don't know what I'm gonna do about back here. Probably keep this whole section, honestly. And then connect that right there. Disconnect it right there. That way I can attach it straight to this part right here, where it splits down the middle right there. Okay, yeah, that's a good plan. Okay, so let's go back in here. Get all this selected. Oh, scribing or no, I was saving the best part for last for you. I was gonna show you that one game with the cool mechanics. Make sure that's the right. Why does it default to that level? That's so annoying. Yeah, so it's right. Well, I want to say it's right here. It keeps, yeah, changing on me, so it is right there. I think that looks good. And then I want to do the same thing over here. This is going to be more complicated because it's covering up some of those bits. Oh, because there's an extension right here. Might be better to hide these bits first so that it's an easy cutaway. Yeah, I might do that. All that work undone in an instant. We're just gonna hide that. Yes, baby boy, what is it? Where are you even? Oh, there you are. Hi, mister. Boy, oh boy, didn't that just look pretty? Oh. I'm gonna try to finish this up real quickly. So I can get some Stardust time in before I hop off. Okay. All this setup is gonna make the getting it all squared away a bit so much easier. So probably should have started with this. But that's the thing, right? You don't ever think of something until you think of it, you know? Working on the same problem forever and ever, and then all of a sudden it hits you like, oh, I see, I'm a moron. Could have been doing it this way the whole time. But I didn't look at it this way until just now. Okay, I think that should be everything. Oh, almost. That should be everything. Yep, there's that side. All gone. There we are. Okay, get some of these extra pieces out of the way so they're not in the shot. There we go. Alright, there's one side done. Now we're gonna clean this up nice and quick. Ooh. That might have not been so clean and quick. Oh, wrong button. I don't like that. Maybe I do like that? Honestly, I can't tell. We're gonna say that's fine. See how that comes out. Get rid of all that. Same thing over here, so this is easy to clean up. There we go. Oh, Lord. Load. That doesn't look right. Right here. I knew it didn't look right. God, it's so hard to see in the see-through view. See how well that cleaned up? I don't like that. And no. Can't be having any of that. No, sir. I'll just do all this pit by hand. Yeah, that's good otherwise. Sometimes you just gotta take the L to get the dub. You know what I'm saying? Fam. Huh? We're breaking up. The Rizzler. The Rizzler. But no cap. My fiance loves it when I say the Rizzler in like a old vampire voice. No, I don't think it is. Gotta love hotkeys. Why are they called hotkeys? I know I can Google that, and I may or may not when this is over. But I'm just curious as to who came up with the term and why hotkeys was the thing that they went with. They sat down. They were like, yeah, this is the thing we're gonna go with. Those keys, they're hot. They get you to where you're going faster. You know, they're shortcuts. That makes them hot, I guess. I know language is goofy and awkward sometimes, and like apparently, and this is news to me, the term raw dogging doesn't mean what it used to mean anymore. Now, the kids, the youths, you see, they are changing the term so that it just means like the unabridged, unedited thing, or like the full thing, or like without any distractions. I don't really know. Like, essentially it still serves the same function, and the origin is obviously the same origin. It's just the manner in which they're using it is different, you know? I wonder if Kyle Kinane had anything to do with this, because every time I hear the term raw dogging, the first thing I think of is that Kyle Kinane joke where he's talking about his dad eating a banana, but like he takes the whole peel off of the banana and then eats it without without holding it by the peel, which apparently is a thing some people do, which I've never heard of, and seems like a psychotic thing to do. Seems like something a crazy person might do, is just eat a whole raw banana by holding it by the raw banana bits, and it's disgusting to me. I can't imagine doing that any other way. But apparently some people do. These people are psychos, of course, but, you know, we live in a society where something, tolerance, I don't know, seems like a crazy person thing to do to me, but what do I know? I'm just an idiot on the internet. You should absolutely not listen to any advice or anything that I tell you, because what do I know? Right? I don't know anything more than anyone else. Except that thing about raw dogging, I guess. I don't know, it seems weird that term is now used for like non-shocking things, but again, who am I? Who are any of us, really? Okay. Whew, man, this is taking a hot minute, huh? Let's hide all of that. Ooh, breaking the law. Breaking the law, breaking the law. What? That's not gonna work. No sirree, Bob. Alrighty then. Once I get this thing out of the way. Oh, awesome. Love that for me. We're gonna Should be pretty easy to get all this separated as one piece. Just have to do the work. Almost there. I think that's something on that side. Yeah, I can't pick that up. And I want to cut this off right here. That's the only downside to hotkeys, is that every key does something. And so if I accidentally press a key when I mean to press, you know, not that key, and Blender is like, hey, did you mean to open this irreversible and annoying mini application or some sort of tool that you don't use and would never use, or to permanently alter this thing, and hitting Control Z does absolutely nothing? Because we think you did. We think you meant to do that. Which is fun. And by fun, of course, I mean agonizingly painful. Bordering on infuriating. You know, that's the kind of thing that shortens someone's lifespan, you know what I'm saying? Oh, man. I think that's all of the core bit. Yeah, now I just need to do these last few things, and then I think we'll be there. sure I hit. Yeah, there we go. And I believe. Oh. I believe that's it. Nope. Nope. I'm blind again. Now I believe that's it. We'll do a quick once over. We'll double and triple check. Make sure we got everything we meant to get. And didn't get anything we didn't mean to get. Yeah. So far so good. I don't smell anything fishy. Look at that. Now comes the super easy part, where we blip, blam, and we'll go right here. And we'll get most of it. And we can just clean up these few little outliers. Make sure that's everything. And that looks like it's it. So we're going to undo that. Then we're going to shift D all the way over here. Then we are going to rotate, I want to say it's negative 90. Let's see how that goes. It should give me, yes. This is the door that I want. Perfection. My little hodgepodge door. Actually came out decently nicely. Oh yeah. It's all coming together. Now all these should be duplicated and moved over. And then what we're going to do is take those and plug them into that. And now well, that's odd. See, now it's not supposed to be doing that, and that is worrying me. Why don't I... separate by selection. Now I'm going to go back into layout mode and do this the correct way this time. There we go. There we go. And that's only that section. Alright. Now comes the fun part. Tell you what. We're gonna actually, what we're going to do real quick is we're going to turn that off. Don't want to be able to select those. Or the ref. Or okay. That, oh, or the bridge. Bridge is staying exactly where it is. And now we're going to do this. There we go. That's what I meant to do. Now we're gonna finesse this. Yeah, there we go. And then from here on in, it's super easy. Just need to get past this little section. Just like that. Now we're going to control save. And then we are going to ever so gently move all this back. Give ourselves a nice wide berth. So we can take this, slot it in here, and make any alterations to it that we need to. Okay. But we are gonna work on that next time, or I'm probably gonna work on that off stream. Oh, hey, the cryo rooms didn't get moved. Isn't that funny? Isn't that just great? How the cryo rooms seem to not want to be part of the party. Well, you have to figure out why the cryo rooms didn't want to come along with the party. Because they hide when the party hides. Oh, that's why. Because for some reason everything was hidden. Weird. Well, that'll be easy to correct. Oh, and something's wrong. Of course it is. There we go. Plenty of room. There we go. And we're gonna call that a day. Thank you for coming, everybody. Unfortunately, I'm gonna go ahead and end it early and not do the gaming part. I wanted to split it up, an hour working on that and then an hour doing the game stuff, but ended up spending all that time working on the model, which is why most of you are here anyway. So thank you for showing up. Everybody who showed up. And I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to check out the Discord for more info on the project. You know, remember to subscribe and like and share with your friends, all that good and fun stuff. Next time I will be playing a game. I'll probably stream for longer next weekend. Next weekend I may even have some news. We'll see, in terms of a deal that may or may not be going through with some people, but I don't want to talk about that yet. Other than that, autumn's well underway. Trying to get the 3D Max stuff set up so that I can export the Pillar of Autumn model, and then yeah, hopefully that'll be posted soon. If I can get all this set up and done. Anyway, thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.